Koostachin here. I'm going to do a little bit of talking about trapping, where I come from. I'm from Fort Severn, up on the Hudson Bay coast. The only community that's almost on the immediate shore of Hudson's Bay. And the trap line is north of the community where I come from, where I learned to trap. I started trapping before the age of 10. I'm in my early 50s, so I've been trapping on and off for 40 years. Things have changed over the years. The style of trapping has become more modernized. These trap sets were unheard of when I was a kid. We used wire or traps made out of natural wood from the natural environment the animals lived in. Because of the value of fur, my preference for trapping these days is the marten. It's more efficient for me, as though some people will find it that they're efficient in other fur. As you can see in my background, 6 weeks of work, I think I probably brought in about 60 marten on weekends. The benefits of trapping is that it pays my uses like gas, food, when I'm out in the bush. So it balances the cost of living when I live off the land. Meaning I harvest what I eat, fish, caribou, geese. In return, I never have to rely on government assistance. Trapping, I've come to know over the years from my family, is that it is one of the oldest trades in this country. Trapping has built this country to begin with. When the government formed, the Hudson Bay Company became part of Canada. So it's more of a tradition that stuck with many families across the north. The family I come from, my dad's family, he had 8 brothers and 3 sisters. He came from a very big family. Coming from a big family, they had to be self-sufficient, because when they were younger, what we have today from the government was not available, because Fort Severn was the most isolated place in the province. Fort Severn from Thunder Bay is very close to 500 miles, and it's isolated, and it's more costly than any other community to go to. So what I've learned from my grandfather was to be self-sufficient. So in my adulthood, I can tell you that I've never seen any help from what you call today ulterior works. We called back then welfare. Being self-sufficient is the biggest pride anyone can have. And I am also educated. I know the struggles of both worlds for First Nations people. The preference of my living is usually trapping or being out on the land. There is so much to learn about the land. We are losing people that are to be knowledge keepers. When I say people, that means the youth. It's not a choice. It's a responsibility that when you learn stuff out in the land, is that you are considered a knowledge keeper, because what you learn is knowledge of the land. I never viewed myself as a teacher until recently, when people started saying that I am a teacher. Why? Because I share what I know. I've been teaching so many young people. I accompany them. I give direction in the activities out on the land. Those who have chosen to be out on the land with me, I do appreciate. I'll never hesitate to take someone out on my area. The marten, maybe American sable. The martens come in obviously different sizes. There's the juvenile and the adult. And the colors on these martens, they come in variety. The more valued martens come in a darker color. You can have a juvenile marten that's almost black, and an adult marten that's kind of pale. The value in that dark little marten will beat the adults.
How do you say marten in the language?
Wapistan. In some areas, like Mujikri, some Mujikri I know they call it Wabsis. Okay. In my behind me, I've displayed a variety of colors. On to the left is earlier winter, and to the right is later in the winter after freeze up. The way I laid them out is to show the density of the fur. And the most prized one is this one. It's dark and thick, and it's large. This is 2X.
Chris, how come these ones don't change color like these ones do? Turn over.
They're more like tree climbers. Like squirrels, they hunt from trees. As we know, squirrels don't change color. If they were dependent on being on the ground, they would adapt to changes for camouflage. When I was younger, we never saw these body grip traps. The traditional traps used to be called leg hold traps. They were disputed by animal groups because when animals were caught in their legs, they would endure more suffering. Some animals they said that would lose their limb by breaking free from the trap. So the style have changed quite a bit. The more traditional trapping I've seen as a younger kid was made from trees, deadfalls they would call them, and snares. I learned how to snare marten when I was younger. It was more tedious, time consuming. So holding a job during the week required me for a more efficient way of trapping. So I switched to a more modern way of trapping with boxes and coney bear traps. So there's a variety of skinning methods that are out there. These boards I don't really favor because of the their slim line. They're more made for mink. They end up with marten that are skin. Okay. There's a dried marten here. The preference of wood I use for stretching will be balsam. It's soft and it's easier and less time consuming to tack down the fur. And I've taken the strips of wood that were inside here. The reason why I put the strips of wood is to loosen up the fur so I can slide out the pelt more easily, as I will demonstrate now. I think I may be doing this backwards, so whatever was in reach I am doing. See, there's $2 screaming behind me. As I said before, I put in a sliding stick in the middle here so I can easily take out the pelt. And another thing I will demonstrate after is that I cut out the jaw. Why I cut out the jaw is I talked to a furrier, which they handle for auction, is that the jaw would stick out and break other fur from the jaw in the tumbler when they tumble the fur to soften them. I usually dry my fur about 12 hours, maybe 10, so they'll be easier to flip the fur, as they would call it. It's flipping the fur, meaning when they asked about the fur, how we prep it, we dry it, we leave the front legs inside. Again, I asked why they wanted that. They said they prefer the legs inside, so when they put it in a tumbler, in the processing tumbler, they don't cut or damage other fur. The last thing you want is one marten that's roughly skinned and pelted is to have a leg sticking out with a jagged edge and damage about 6 other fur that's yours. That'll deplete the value of your fur that's going to be auctioned off. What one elder told me from what he sees out in the land is that we've become so industrialized that we don't notice that we changed the climate too. We were still in the climate change, the natural climate change that was getting warmer, but not as quick. What we did as an industrialized part of our lives is that we put the climate change in hyperdrive. What we're seeing today, we should be seeing in 200 years. If we continue to do that, the drastic change is not adaptable to most areas that are experiencing climate change. For example, geese up north, they have been known to lay their eggs in August, which means the goslings they produce will be left behind in the migration. So I have seen it. Okay. As I was saying with climate change, there's changes in everything. If birds change, it affects everything in the chain. If migration changes, it all goes down on the food chain. Birds, the birds. Martens, foxes, eagles. Eagles, I rarely see eagles hunt anymore. They have become more scavengers than hunters. And this affects what we trap too. It affects the marten. For example, if the marten don't eat healthy, the fur is not healthy. Martens will eat just about anything. They'll eat. Their main diet would be birds. They have like a cat-like hunting skills. They'll eat partridge. They'll go after rabbits. Even rabbits that are 3 times bigger than them, they'll take it down. And it's more challenging when there's a population explosion of rabbits, and the martens are harder to catch. They'll go after fresh meat. They won't go after bait. That goes for everything else, the same as marten. So the other way is that if there's no feed, natural feed for the martens or the predators, the fur-bearing predators, they'll sort into cannibalism. What most trappers do encourage is they have somewhat like a birdhouse style they'll put up on a tree, which they call nesting boxes. So it's like I'll try not to use the word farming because they're in their natural habitat. All the trapper is doing, providing a nesting for it. It's like a birdhouse that encourages their numbers. It's like their safety zone away from the ground. The declining number of trappers, the balance of what we had with the animals is different. We have more predators than what we used to have. When we have more predators, like if I've noticed there's not many people trapping marten in my area. If martens were to be left alone, we would have significantly less partridge, rabbits, even fish. Martens can fish too. I would say most martens are nocturnal. They hunt in the dark. They change. They compete for their mate. The dominant male will mate with the marten. It's like what bull moose do. They compete for the female. So the tougher you are. I have seen a family of marten. There's family of 4. And I've noticed in one area where I would set a trap, I would catch small ones, usually 3 or 4 small ones in that one spot. And then all of a sudden I would catch a big one and there'll be no more. I've noticed that when I've seen tracks of martens, it's always the same pattern. There's like a trail. Sometimes a marten won't show up till a week, 2 weeks. Martens hibernate too. They feed. In the very coldest part of the winter, they will hibernate. When I skin the martens, I usually notice there's pockets of fat in the skin. That's when I know they're ready to hibernate for a little bit. They'll come out probably when they're ready to mate. Late winter. I've heard stories people eating martens, but personally I've never seen anyone. They tend to taste like the taste of pine in them.
Yeah.
Because they climb around pine trees. That's why they're called pine marten. That's their area. If you ever were to chase a marten, like in the background here, it'll go where you can't go, up. It's like a squirrel. You'll never catch a squirrel with your hands.
So these teeth, especially the cuspids, they look very clean. There's not any decay. So is this a young one?
This is an adult.
This is an adult? He's got really nice looking teeth.
Yeah, this is an old guy. I'll show you another one with more razor sharp teeth.
Wow.
I wouldn't say this is a junior. This is 1 year old. Even the molars are sharp.
Wow, I've never seen molars like that before.
Of course, if they were to scavenge meat in the winter, they need those teeth to eat frozen meat.
Mm.
Miigwech.